I'm Kailey Love and I'm 19 years old.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm 20 years old and I go to North Greenville.
Hi, I'm Wyatt Duncan. I'm 21 years old.
Hello, I'm Emma. I'm 18 and I'm a freshman at Anderson.
I'm Aaron. I'm 21 years old.
Hi, I'm Deandra Watkins and I'm 23 years old.
Hey, I'm Ashley Rosa and today I'm talking about anxiety and depression. So the reason this video came about is actually because I wanted to do this for a school project in my class for biology, but my teacher said that the topic of anxiety and depression and how it affects young adults is too psychological and not biological enough. So she yeeted that idea and I was like, no, I still want to make a video about anxiety and depression because I think it's an important topic to talk about, and I think it's something that a lot of young adults struggle with. I personally struggle with it and I'm getting help for it. I don't want to go into too much detail about it, but I'll just leave it at that. And in this video, I actually interviewed a few of my close friends who actually struggle with mental health, and I asked them questions, and here is this video. So these are the questions I asked them, and as I am asking the questions, then there will be responses from them, and then I'll keep going and it'll kind of go like that for this video. So I hope you guys enjoy. Why do you think it tends to be a taboo topic when it comes to mental health?
Because people don't like being vulnerable, or not people don't like being vulnerable, but it's hard to be vulnerable, especially in the public eye, so I feel like it's not like normalized in society.
Because a lot of people that I've seen in the church have thought like, oh, you have mental health problems, obviously you're not connected enough to God, so obviously you're a sinner.
I feel like people can't see the mental health, so they can't see like the damage it's doing, so a lot of people actually don't believe in mental health. So when you talk about it, it's like a sign of weakness or that you're crazy and nothing's actually wrong, it's just yourself.
And I feel like with Christians there's like this stigma where like God doesn't give you sadness, and so like you have to be perfect if you're a Christian, which is just not true. Like God loves you no matter what, and so I feel like it's just not normalized because no one really talks about it, and I feel like no one talks about it because they don't want to, or they don't know how, because they don't know how to approach it.
There's a lot of unknowns about it, and when it comes to therapists and studying the psychology of the brain, it's a lot of theories, not a lot of definite facts. And so a lot of times when you're giving diagnosis on certain things in mental health area, it's kind of a shot in the dark rather than like a solid, okay, I know what I'm talking about.
A lot of people are like, oh, like you're not connected enough to God. Like I had someone before be like, well, you know, like anxiety is fear and fear is a sin. You're not trusting in God, and just like making it about the fact that I'm flawed versus stuff happens and I was born like this, you know?
Do you personally struggle with anxiety or depression?
Yeah, I'm a severely anxious person. I was sitting in class this morning and just like not able to focus because my brain was just going at 500 miles a minute. But yeah, no, I really started, once I was able to identify my anxiety, being able to recognize it more. So I feel like based on my memory and experience, I've become more anxious, but actually I think in reality I've just begun to be able to identify it more accurately. But yes, I do struggle with anxiety and have dealt with depression in the past.
Yes, I do. I struggle with both anxiety and depression.
Yes, I was diagnosed with depression when I was in middle school.
Yeah, a few years ago I got diagnosed with major depressive disorder and I had to take medicine for it.
Me personally, I struggle with a little bit of anxiety, but not a severe anxiety. I struggle with a lot of anxiety with school and that stress that it brings. I also have a lot of social anxiety when I'm in big groups of people or getting to know new people.
I've struggled with depression, and I struggle with anxiety still.
In one word, how would you describe that moment when anxiety or depression takes over?
I'd say suffocating.
Trapping?
A sinking.
Controlling.
I felt like super hopeless. I felt like I just like had to die.
I think it's one of those things that whether it's a physical anxiety, like external, like a shaking of the body, something that my body does, or internal, it traps me within myself, and I'm not able to necessarily communicate what I need or what's going on.
It literally controls everything, the way you think, how you feel, how you, I wouldn't say how you act, but it influences it.
When anxiety takes over, it's just like you have like one brain cell and it's like hitting every wall of your brain, and it like doesn't really know how to function. It kind of feels like you're like this tiny little like piece of dust like floating around the room, not really sure where your place is.
And like suffocating is like too generous of a word. Like I don't even know like a word in the English dictionary to describe it. But like suffocating is one.
It like physically felt painful, like in my chest. It felt physically painful. Like I just felt like a tightness in my chest all the time.
Like my heart sinks, my gut sinks, everything in my mind sinks into that hole.
Does it get in the way of everyday life, like home, school, etc., and how?
Definitely get in the way of things. Like if I was too depressed to like, go spend time with my friends or whatever. Usually I would try to spend time with my friends to get out of the depression, but like me being depressed would get in the way of me like interacting with them. Like I would be weird. I'd be super disassociated.
Yes, absolutely. How? It depends, because if you're like struggling with depression, it can make you lose like interest in everything. So you start losing interest and start looking at everything in a negative perspective. So if you're going to school, you feel like, what's the point of this, and you don't want to do it. Or if you hang out with friends or any activities, you don't have any interest in doing it, you just don't care about it. And with anxiety, it's hard to get out of your head, and you're so overwhelmed and shaken up and focused on this thing that you can't control that you can't even enjoy life. Like I've been in an arcade where there's millions of noises and stuff going on, but when anxiety takes over, you're not in the world, you're in your mind.
Yes. A lot of the times it's hard to get up in the morning. Not even like, I don't feel like it. Like you just sometimes like physically can't get up just because everything's like weighing down on you. And by everything, sometimes everything could be nothing.
Not always. I do experience anxiety attacks that are very quiet, where it's almost entirely in my head. I find those moments to be difficult only because no one else understands what's going on.
I feel like my social anxiety gets in the way of life a lot just because it's hard for me to put myself out there and make new friends. And when it comes to anxiety about school, I don't feel like it holds me back. I do feel like it affects how well I work and how long I can work on something.
This was more of a Christian-based question, but some people who answered it weren't coming from a Christian standpoint. They were coming from a worldly standpoint, and I don't see a problem with it because I think anxiety and depression affects Christians and non-Christians. What do you think of the saying, just pray it away, like praying your problems away and God is going to solve the issue?
It pisses me off.
I think praying gets a lot of the symptoms of it, but I don't necessarily think it takes it away from like your head.
I think God hears our prayers, and I think God walks with me through the valleys and the mountains. That quote is taken advantage of so much because God doesn't give us anything more than He can handle. And so it's just like, yeah, we can pray about it, but maybe we don't pray it away. But in prayer, we find that peace and that comfort in Him, not so much our problem being solved.
God is pretty cool, and I'm not denying that, and prayer is a very powerful thing. But I think specifically, just pray about it, just pray it away. That kind of attitude, specifically from Christians, is typically, and not always, but most of the time in my experience, has been used as an excuse. When someone has cancer, you send them to the best cancer doctor and pray about it. You don't just look at them and say, oh, well, I'll be praying for you. Like, I hope God, pray about it. Okay, God's great. He is, but also, mental health is a real thing, and it's a real illness and a real disease, and I don't like the word disease. It is a real illness, it's a real struggle. And to just pray about it is not sufficient. And it's one of those things that can make someone who struggles with it, or various experiences within that umbrella, it can make them feel even more alone than they already do.
I think when it comes to just pray it away, it is talking about managing and coping with it rather than just getting rid of it, because really and honestly it doesn't go away.
I feel like half the people that say pray it away are the same ones that say God lets us go through trials for a reason, you know? So it's just like kind of hypocritical. And also like this is me. Like, don't try to solve me for me. Like, I don't feel like we normalize getting therapy enough, you know? Like, I don't feel like we normalize that. I didn't ask to be born. I didn't ask to be born with depression. It's not like, I'm sad, I cry every day. It's like, no, I have something in my brain that is imbalanced. I didn't ask for this. No one asked for it, you know?
What helps you when those thoughts get the best of you?
I would say from a Christian standpoint and a non-Christian standpoint is really just taking those thoughts captive. And I know that can sound like cliche, especially if you're a Christian, because you're like, well, what does that mean and how do I do that? And it's really hard because your brain produces over 12 million thoughts a day, so it can be really hard to actually do that. But I always like to take the analogy of, if a bird lands on your head, you can shoo it away, or you can let it build a nest. And the more you let thoughts come on your head, you can shoo that thought away and take it captive and be like, no, that's a lie. Or you can sit there and let it embed itself and start digging itself in a deeper hole with all these other thoughts. And eventually you have 30 birds in a huge nest in your head that's harder to take away. So just replacing those thoughts, taking them, throwing them, replacing it with something else to focus on something else. That's what I do.
I mean, I've always liked music. Music always just made me like, if I could just listen to like a super good song, it would just take my mind off of it for a little bit, I guess.
When those thoughts get the best of me, I tend to turn to friends and talk to them a lot about it. I also joke about it, which is not necessarily the best way to do it, but it does help me recognize that it is a problem in my life that I need to address, but also not get dwelling on it. I remember things that I like to do or enjoy doing, and I kind of force myself to do them. Like, I enjoy writing poetry, and that helps me get my feelings out, so I'll force myself to do that or think about what I could put on the page.
I spend a lot of time at the airport to reflect on my life and things.
How does it make you feel when others say you're just being over dramatic?
It hurts because if it's somebody I truly care about, I feel like they don't care about me or don't believe that what I'm facing is real. So it hurts if they're like, oh, you're over dramatic, because they don't understand what I'm going through. So it makes me feel disconnected from people.
I hate it. First off, I don't think anyone should ever downplay anyone's emotions.
It used to bother me more than it does. I think I spent a lot of time worrying about what people thought of me. And then I realized and learned that the things that I struggle with and the things that I deal with are very real.
I gotta take into consideration, like, what am I being over dramatic about? You know, like, maybe they're right, maybe I am being over dramatic about something, but also, like, maybe they don't know something that I do. Like, they don't know something about my situation. It honestly just depends on what I'm getting over dramatic about.
Who are you to decide what the scale of dramatic is and where my feelings are valid and where they're not, you know?
It makes me mad because I don't like when people talk about a subject they don't know about, and it frustrates me that they have the audacity to tell somebody something they have no clue what it's like. And it also makes me sad because they don't know what mental health is like, and they're hurting many people around them, and they're not understanding and being a support system for them, and they could also struggle from mental health and not even know because they don't want to recognize what it is.
Brenda, don't tell me I'm being over dramatic when you cry when you get 9 chicken nuggets instead of 10. Like, get out of my face, you know? Worry about your own mental health. Worry about the fact that you're a racist or homophobic. Don't worry about the fact that I'm struggling with something that's hating myself and not other people.
What is your opinion on medicine?
I think it's right in the correct dosage. I don't think it's good to get addicted to. Of course. Shocker.
I mean, some people need it more than others. For me, like, medicine wasn't like a do or die thing. I was only on the medicine for like maybe like a year, maybe less than a year. I definitely still struggle with it sometimes.
I don't believe medicine is right or wrong. I think it really just depends on the case, because medicine isn't going to fix everything. However, it does help with a lot of the physical symptoms and the chemical imbalances. But I do believe that each case is different, and obviously you should see a professional about that. But I think that, like I was saying earlier, there's 3 parts of who you are. There's the mind, the spiritual aspect, and the body. So I think it is very important for the body if there's a chemical imbalance. But I do believe that incorporating that with, spiritual stuff and mental stuff, the mind, that it could be a good answer for you. But of course, it only takes care of like 1/3 of your body.
I think medicine is good if you're taking it, if you're not abusing it. If you need it, then take it. But if you don't need it, then don't take it. And I feel like I think that's like a personal thing to decide. I don't know, like I take Vyvanse for ADHD, and like I know I need that because if not, there would be like a squirrel running across my brain all the time.
Like, I just thought the medicine would maybe help, but it did to an extent. I felt like me not doing medicine would help me, like, in the long run, because I didn't want to rely on the medicine, Like, I wanted to know how to, like, be stronger without medicine. But I mean, I'm not, like, just because you're on medicine doesn't mean you're less of a person. Like, everybody's got certain steps to take.
What is your opinion on service animals?
I think it's important. I personally have not reached a point where I feel like I need one yet. Just, I don't have a deep connection with animals in general. But I've seen people with their service animals who just, obviously I don't know what's going on inside, but the way they talk about their service animals is like better than people. And like, even like service animals with like people with epilepsy. Like, service animals are just so smart. Like, animals in general are smart, but service animals, I think it's a good thing. I do think, and I'm going to say this specifically at NGU because I've only been to NGU, but I have heard, like, I'm not accusing anyone, have physically heard someone say, I don't need a service animal, but I want a cat, so I'm going to fill the form out. That's where I have a problem, because now you're using an actual mental illness for your own benefit, and that's horrible.
Yeah.
And don't pet people's service animals unless they say you can.
My opinion on service animals is very positive. I actually have one.
You can show him.
This is Hero. He's my service animal. He does his job. He's for stress. So, over quarantine, I found that I deal with stress in a very bad way. And I learned a lot of that was from anxiety from school. And so I got him as an approved service animal for stress. During quarantine, when I was figuring all that out, I would have crying fits and mental breakdowns like every other day. It was just really bad, and sometimes during those crying fits and stuff like that, I would get really angry to the point of breaking things. And looking back, I did do that a lot throughout high school as well. In fact, I got my new laptop before college because I broke my other one because I got angry. I only found out a lot of that stress and anxiety recently when it comes to school. So that's why I got Hero approved as an ESA dog. Since having him approved as my emotional support dog and having him in the dorm with me, I feel like throughout this semester, with all the things that I've been coming at with like school and things, I feel like I would have had at least 5, if not more, mental breakdowns and crying fits and things like that with school. But so far, I've only had 1, and that's a really big improvement since previous years of school. And I'm sure Ashley can attest to how many crying fits I had last year and things like that. I definitely think they're a good idea, and they definitely help a lot. I think it entirely depends on you and what you need though, because if you're not an animal person, or if, you're allergic to them or something like that, medicine might be a better option, or just learning different coping mechanisms might be a better option.
Oh, I think that's great. Yeah. She's got a little autistic brother. He's 5 years old. He freaking loves Pippin. Like, yeah, I think they're great.
And my final question is, how can we make people more aware of this being an illness?
That's difficult, I think. They say that all publicity is good publicity. When it comes to things like health and anxiety and all of that, it's a bit of a fine line, because you don't want to misrepresent, but also representation is good. And I think because we live in such a media-driven culture, media representation is super, super powerful. So I would say careful representation, educated representation is a great way to raise awareness and further that education and understanding of such things, but to do so carefully. Find people who you know who struggle with these things, who are willing to talk about it. Ask them if you can ask questions. If not, ask them their story. Some people may not be in a place where they're comfortable to talk about it. Many, myself included, would love to.
I think just more research, because there are studies that have been done where people will analyze when you have thoughts of what part of the brain lights up and what that causes as far as more thoughts or more physical behaviors, and that just because you have a thought, it's not just like, oh, you're just thinking bad, you're just sad. Like, some of these are like severe things that cause physical things. So I think just doing more research in general and putting that out there for people to understand and having more resources for people to reach that knowledge, I think that would help a lot, because I don't think it's something you can't see, but it's something that causes something. Like, you can't see the wind, but it does cause trees to fall or to sway or hair to blow. And I think that's something that people don't realize, is that if you can't see, it's not real. But it is.
Talk about it more. There are so many people that are so closed off to talking about mental health. But like, some people struggle, like some people have physical health like cancer. Like, some people struggle with cancer and their organs start failing or something. Like, mental health is like, it's not the same, but it's the same. Like, organs failing, and then like that's a physical thing. But like, mental health is like just as important, because like mental health can lead people to suicide. I'm not saying everyone has to be open. Like, if people aren't comfortable with being open, don't be open about it. But like, if you are, talk about it, normalize it. Don't judge people when they do talk about it. Be careful of what you say. Like, things like that. Just be more considerate of others.
We need to normalize people talking about their problems and not be like, oh, well, you're too negative, I can't be around you, or oh, you're sad too much. Like, let people feel like they can talk out in the open to people. Like, be nice to one another, be better humans, let people talk, let people feel.
And these were some final thoughts that they had to say on the topic.
Mental health is real, and if you know someone who struggles with it, please, please, please do everything you can to just be a support system. You can't fix it, but you can like be there for them and love them.
Take care of yourselves. For those of you who are college students or are, in high school, a lot of the things that go through your head, whether you deal with anxiety clinically or it's something that is not necessarily diagnosed, but is something you struggle with or whatever, be patient with yourselves. You have so much life ahead of you.
Just like relying on God is like a big thing for me. And it's just like whether you like are a Christian or a follower of God, or whether you like are like Buddhist or like Hinduism or like something, like find like an anchor and like cling to it, because like for me, like I cling to God and I like trust God and I have faith, and that's very helpful for me.
I just say, remember, there's a God that cares about you.
I want to disclaim that nothing I or anyone and whoever else is in this video says speaks for any entire community, because we all go through different things. So I don't want like someone to watch this and be like, she doesn't want me to talk about God when I talk about her mental health, so I obviously can't talk to anyone about God. Like, this is just personally for me.
Don't give up. I know a lot of times that it just seems like it's not worth it anymore. I'm kind of in that state right now where it's not worth it anymore, but I can guarantee you that it is, because there's always joy that comes in the morning.
So those were the questions I asked, those were the answers they gave, and nothing was right or wrong. I think everyone came from their own personal experience, either with them personally struggling with anxiety or depression, or other people that they know who struggle with anxiety or depression. And these were all not based on fact, but based on the fact of their own life and their own experience. And something that I learned from making this video and interviewing all these people is that everyone is so different and like grew up so differently and experiences the world so differently that all of their answers were similar yet different because of their background, based off of either their faith, maybe how they grew up, where they went to school, stuff like that. I just want to say, if you took the time to watch this entire video, thank you so much. This was something that I worked really hard on, with setting up interviews, coming up with questions, editing the video, which I haven't done yet, but we're gonna get there. And please be sure to follow any of my friends. Here are some of their shout outs right now.
I want to shout out my YouTube channel because I know it's Kailey Love. That's it.
Come see Joyful Noise at North Greenville University in November. The dates are on our website. Come see Charlie Brown at North Greenville University in February. The dates are on our website. Shout out to Marty Daniel for being awesome.
And if you missed Daddy Longlegs, too bad for you, suckers.
Oof. Oof.
Go see Wyatt Duncan's senior project, Joyful Noise.
Love Jesus.
Shout out my girlfriend right here.
This right here, that's the girlfriend, Caroline.
Just got a shout out.
Shout yourself out, like your photography and stuff.
Oh, I take pictures for fun, palatable pictures on Instagram.
Choose joy. I guess, I don't know.
And be sure to follow me at the Ashley Rosa, except for Snapchat, which is at FlowerRosa0410. And if you guys like this video and you want to see more videos like this, leave it in the comments down below. Give it a thumbs up. Share this video so that way I know what you want to see next. And again, I'm Ashley Rosa, and thank you so much for watching this video. Bye!